Yeah, we're just making. All right. Thank you guys for coming. This is Sam Copeland's second time here at the Chess Club to do a lecture and a sign for us. So we're really excited. Many of you guys are probably here to beat them up over the stuff or over the state of the servers right now. Do you have any insight on that when your servers are going to be a little bit better? I know it doesn't happen overnight.
Already, I think more stable today than they were at the beginning of the week. But we doubled traffic since the beginning of December. We had about 5.4 million at the beginning of December. In terms of people using the site on the day. And today we have about 10.6 million. So the traffic is just skyrocketing, and it's only put in new servers and hardware and get data backing up from certain locations to other locations so fast.
Right.
Concrete obstacles that we're solving as fast as we can.
Do you guys have a cloud provider or no? Or you guys just do everything in-house on your
We
on-prem
have
data centers?
hybrid systems. We're scaling all of the stuff as fast as possible, and also the specific on-site hardware as well. So I think at this point the hardware we're scaling super fast, but the challenges we're seeing are hardware challenges or resource challenges.
Sure.
It was much better for me today. So I noticed lately.
We gotta make sure
It's getting better.
so.
We appreciate the hard work too. It's a lot.
Yeah.
Lots to handle.
Mission Control, which is our Slack channel right now, looks a lot like in the movie Apollo 11 with Tom Hanks. Just communications and where can we get like a 2% efficiency here or over there.
Yeah.
Other things. So everything's being done to handle the traffic, and we're adding about 360,000 new members every day of this.
Wow. That's insane.
And I think part of the challenge too is as during peak hours it's a struggle. People start to, out of curiosity, just go check, like not even to see if they can play a game, but just to check. And I think even that is driving some level of interest. Like when chat GPT is blowing up and you can't get access because it's saying too many people are wanting to check out chat GPT.
I ran into that.
More people to check it out. So that's not a strategy, but I think we're getting hits from people, checking stuff out of curiosity. We're seeing news coverage about just how much traffic there's been. So
Cool. I just wanted
crazy
to,
days.
wanted
Thank you
to,
for the hard work.
yeah, wanted to thank you for staying on top of that. Well, Sam's here to tell us about the best game we've never seen, right? All right, well, I'll leave it to you, Sam. Thank you.
Cool. Thank you, James. Appreciate it. My personality in chess, and I feel like there are a lot of different chess personalities, is a bit of a collector. So there are a lot of things that I connect to in terms of chess, but one thing that I really love is just seeing like a new combination, new tactic, some kind of pattern that I've never seen before that inspires me, that just feels perfect in some kind of unique way.
Sorry, Sam, is it better with the lights on or off?
Yeah, I think that this is better. If everyone's okay with it, I think that this will be the only way people in the back will really see the screen as we get into the game. So there are countless games that I think kind of everyone's seen. When I say everyone, maybe not everyone in the room, but if you've been around chess for a while, you've seen the Opera game, by Paul Morphy, which is a beautiful game, where you've seen Kasparov versus Topalov, 1999, which is widely considered the most amazing game, the best chess game of all time. It would be my vote for the best chess game of all time. But there are just millions and millions of games played, and so many are special, beautiful, underseen. I have the personality that loves finding that kind of game and sharing those. I do some of that on my YouTube channel. I did a series on the best chess games of all time, and I covered a lot of games that I think hadn't been covered on the other YouTube channels, and I'm doing some more of that. So this is one of those games that I just really like. I think it's a wonderful underseen gem. You've probably never heard of the players in it. And I wanted to share it here. I think there's a lot of instructive moments, and it's just, in my opinion, a joy. So the players here are Mikhail Balin, and I've seen different spellings here. This isn't a player who's particularly well known. I think he was like a city champion in like Ukraine, 1930s, 1940s, something like that. This game was played in 1950s, I would say like 1951. And Isaac Lipnitsky, probably almost no one in here has heard about Isaac Lipnitsky, but he did write a very popular book that's still in print called Questions of Modern Chess Theory. So he was writing in the 50s what he defined as modern is no longer so modern, but it's still a really great book with lots of good examples. And I think he finishes the book with this particular game. So we're just going to enjoy the game, and I'll have some puzzles and some moments that we can check out as we go through. And I'm going to be referring to my tablet over here as everybody moves, so that's going to make me a little slow. Bear with me. Basically, I don't want to paste all of my notation in here and have you all see the next move if I want to be able to present it as a puzzle and so forth. So the game opens here with d4, and we get knight f6, c4, e6, and knight f3, d5, bishop g5, h6, bishop takes f6, queen takes f6, knight c3, bishop to b4, and now white goes for queen a4 check, which forks the king, and the king, classic move. Easy to just lose a piece this way, but of course black isn't losing a piece so simply here. Knight blocks on c6, defending the bishop and getting out of check. And here, after knight c6, white makes a mistake. The first of maybe a couple of mistakes in the game, but honestly, it would be too much to call this a decisive mistake. White isn't lost after this move. There's more mistakes that contribute to it, but it is kind of the key mistake in the game, because white is going to end up here behind in development, struggling to complete development, and that's going to be white's fatal downfall, right? It's rare that you'll make kind of one mistake that doesn't just lose material, that kind of loses the game, but when you play a stronger opponent, even one critical early mistake can be fatal. So what white does here is knight to e5 in this position. And knight e5 is a very natural move. You're putting pressure on the pin piece. You have this idea of capturing over here, and then you could maybe capture the bishop on b4, which would be undefended. Also, if you capture on c6, then you could potentially win material if your queen can capture on c6. So it makes sense to try to pile up on this knight on c6. It makes so much sense that the move has been played in the database 19 times. That's the Masters database. So only players kind of at my level and above are in the database that I was looking at. And 19 of them made this mistake, and most of them lost as a result of it. So there's basically a key tactical flaw, which we'll look at in a moment. But before we get to that, I will also say that this is kind of a positional error that's worth noting, right? It takes a specific tactical issue to really show how bad this move is. But in principle, moving a piece a second time when you're not fully developed as white is something that can be questionable, okay? So bringing this knight up here, not thinking about developing your bishop, your king getting castled, conceptually a bit suspect, but often it takes tactics to show exactly how something doesn't work. So black here plays bishop to d7, which is breaking the pin, and it has an idea of knight takes e5 in this position. And it also opens up potentially knight takes d4, not right away because the queen could capture on d7, but the knight's putting pressure now on both e5 and d4 now that you've broken the pin. So my question is, what happens if white here plays knight takes d7? what should black play?
Just immediately, I would just play king takes, is my first instinct.
Makes sense? Makes sense. A natural assumption, and probably that is what white was assuming would happen before white got here. And
Yep.
this isn't the position that happened in the game. White was probably counting on being able to take on d7 and get king takes d7 in response.
You could play queen takes d4, sorry.
King d8?
King d8 is a bit too ambitious. We do need to think about creating counter threats, and here the queen is hanging in this position.
Bishop C3 check.
Bishop c3 check does deal with the fact that this bishop could be loose in some cases, but after pawn takes, then white is actually doing well. The recapture here supports the center after bishop takes c3, knight takes c3, and it deals with some of the problems that white has in the position.
Queen takes d4?
Yes, queen takes d4. Easy to miss a move like this. Your opponent just captured a free bishop on d7. You assume they have to recapture, but black has queen takes d4, which is much stronger than recapturing. And here, this knight on d7 is actually trapped. So black is in a position to go and get that back later with the king, possibly in other ways as well. And also there's now the idea of bishop takes c3. And black's position here is just overwhelming. So I think that basically white missed this idea, knight takes d7, queen takes d4. And as a result, white's going to really end up struggling here. So just because you've made one mistake doesn't mean you have to make multiple mistakes. I'm going to turn this off actually. Keep to this view. Okay, so after bishop d7, white actually plays knight takes c6 here. And what should black play?
Bishop takes knight.
Bishop takes knight, right? Now that this knight is gone, this bishop over here has no defender. So you can't just recapture on c6. You can lose your bishop on b4, but this move comes with check. White naturally recaptures, and now black is going to recapture here with the bishop. Hitting the queen, so the queen needs to move. And which square does she pick? Here. She pulls back to b3, and now black captures on c4, and queen takes c4. So the last several moves were basically forced for both players. Forced sequence, and how would you evaluate this position? Someone who wants to share an opinion.
When black is up, they have more material out, they have the space advantage, and they have a safer king, so black is clearly winning.
I wouldn't go so far as winning, but yeah, black is much superior in this position. And black is ready to castle very, very soon. That's a big advantage. The king will be safer, as you mentioned, and the rook is going to be able to get into play soon after castling. A big problem for white here is that it's very difficult to develop the pawns, like play e3, play g3, something like that, because you're frequently losing material somewhere due to the pressure from this bishop. And if it's difficult to develop your pawns and then move the bishop safely in some way, then you also can't get castled. So white has ended up in this spot that is just really gummed up in terms of trying to complete development, get castled. If white had, 2 or 3 moves in the position to play maybe f3 and then e4, then white would be totally fine. But time matters a lot in chess. The most important asset in a lot of positions is just the next move. And here, black's just doing super, super well because of the pressure and the extra time that black has in the position. So let's promote this to the main line since this is how the game proceeded. Queen takes c4 here. And black castles. There are other good moves along the way, by the way, but black in general plays very logically and keeps an advantage throughout the game. White plays f3 here. And again, I'd ask, what would you play here as black?
Maybe a5.
Okay, a5 is one suggestion. Any other suggestions?
E5?
I'm not sure who said that. Yeah, E5. Not necessarily the only move. Black has, I don't want to say spoiled for choice, but Black does have multiple good and logical ways to continue. But this is the kind of most principled and natural move. When your opponent is struggling to castle early in the game, you really want to open the position. That's very, very classical here, and that's going to be a big theme for Black in this game, trying to open lines to get at that king. Because the king right now, unless you play this move, it doesn't feel so unsafe on E1, right? It's hard to imagine checkmating that king on E1 while it is behind all those pawns, even though it's stuck and unable to castle for a while. But once you start playing a move like E5 and lines start opening, and your rooks come to the open files, that king starts to feel very, very unsafe very quickly. So E5 is a supernatural move. Even if Stockfish says there are other moves that are as good, maybe even a little better, E5 is what I'd be wanting a student to play. It's just the most thematic. It's going to be the strongest move in positions like this over and over again. So E5 here, D5 from white, which has two sides, one I really respect and one that I think is really kind of suspect. What I really respect is pushing here tries to keep things close. So rather than exchange the pawns here, which opens more lines for Black to try to attack, and White's king continues to feel less and less safe, this move is trying to say, hey, you keep your pawn here, you have to attack around that. That makes sense. I'm not going to exchange pawns and open lines. The thing that's a little not as great about this move that White follows up on eventually is a greedy idea to go and capture on C7, right? I'm attacking your bishop with my pawn. Let's get you to move that bishop, and then I will go take a pawn on C7. And that is going to happen in the game, but one should anticipate that this kind of play deserves punishment. You need to address the core issue that you have in the game as White, which is your development, the fact that your king isn't castled, going to win a pawn on C7. Maybe it works out, maybe your opponent doesn't punish it, but you should expect that punishment awaits that kind of greed. And so after D5, here we do see bishop D7 in this position, and we do get the greedy move, queen takes on C7. Right here, queen takes C7, so not addressing the development, not getting the king castle, but instead picking up his pawn and saying, hey, I'm attacking your bishop, I'm attacking your pawn over here, right? I'll just try not to get checkmated, and if you don't checkmate me, then this can work out, right? And of course, I'm sure we've all had games like this where we've been in the position of the Black player where we were like, you shouldn't be able to do that. You shouldn't be so greedy. You shouldn't neglect the principles that I know and learned from chess coaches and from books and such. And yet still we fail to punish the play, the greed that we see here, and we end up losing the game. After queen takes C7 here, what should Black play? How would you correctly, accurately punish the capture here on C7?
E4, yeah. That's great.
Yes, multiple correct responses. E4 is super, super strong. You're opening up your queen over here, and now that open line for the queen means that White is not in a position here to capture on D7, because after queen captures on C3, the rook is falling. You can also throw in a check here. You have strong play, and you're winning material. So that would just be very decisive for Black. So E4, excellent move, very, very strong move. After E4, White plays the very natural move, Rook C1, saying, okay, I'm going to defend this right here. Now I am again threatening your bishop. If you let me take it on this next turn, then you're not going to be able to capture on C3. So I've pulled my rook over. It's helping defend this pawn on C3. and my threats to capture your pawn or your bishop are kind of back and forth, right? Here, black plays very brilliantly. Okay. Who wants to suggest black's brilliant move?
Yeah.
Rook C8.
Which rook?
Rook A.
Okay. So rook AC8, which is more natural than rook FC8, so both might have similar ideas. But what about queen captures bishop? What's your intended follow-up?
Follow with the rook on D8.
Follow with the rook on D8, so you want to keep attacking the queen over here.
Rook C on D8.
Rook CD8. Okay. I feel like we're chasing the queen around a little bit. I'm not sure we're quite getting there. I'm not even sure that this is bad, to be honest, but it's not the way that black played. Let me back up. We'll actually keep this position, just near the highlights. What would be another suggestion in this position?
E attacks F3.
Capture on F3. After white recaptures, which I'm not actually sure how to do here. I think you raise a good point. Let me throw the computer analysis here. I think you can capture this way. There's a check here, but the king can survive in the middle of the board. You have sacrificed a bishop. So this looks scary.
Doesn't the queen get pinned in that case? Oh, no, never mind. There's a pawn on it. Never mind.
Yeah, there's a pawn here that interferes with things. It does look scary. I would not immediately assume that white can survive this, but there's better here than capturing.
Just push the U pawn.
Rook takes C3.
Rook takes C3, again very tempting, but white is able to exchange and survive. Charlie?
Maybe you push the pawn.
Yes. I'll flip the lines back on. I think some people might have seen before I flipped it back after we looked at the previous evaluation. Also, I don't know how many people can read that up there if you do good eyesight in the back. But there is only one winning move in this position for black. I think there are still other scary moves. In a practical game, I'd still be concerned about some of the other moves mentioned. But the only winning move here is E3, which is very brilliant. When you're annotating a game, you can make some choices. Where do I think that the move was brilliant? I would argue E3 is really kind of the most brilliant move in this game. The black plays multiple very, very nice ideas in the game. So after E3, this move is just like sealing a tomb, right? Now we have the idea of rook takes C3, right? We are down a bishop, but that bishop is this bishop on F1. Not much of a bishop at all. Honestly, white wishes that that bishop were off the board so that white could just castle, right? If you gave up your bishop and castled, you'd at least have a chance of survival. But with that bishop sitting on F1, this rook buried in the corner, the fact that black is down a bishop is not really a complete way to look at the position by any means. This pawn on E3 creates all kinds of mating ideas, buries the king, buries the bishop, buries the rook. It's just a monstrous, monstrous pawn. Still, even though I'm saying all that, again, you still have to be quite accurate to prove that something like this is a decisive advantage, and you can go from here. So after E3, I have to look up and see what white did try to play. Okay. White tries queen A4 in this position, pulling the queen back here on that diagonal. It is so hard to follow this on the tablet. Okay. So black is now capturing here on C3. Rook captures C3. You cannot play rook takes C3 for white because after queen takes check, the king can only step over right. This is the only legal move. And boom, a classic mating pattern. That pawn on E3 is supporting all kinds of queen and helper mates like this, back rank checkmates, very, very classic things. Let's promote this line again, because this is the main line of the game. And here, after rook takes c3, white's not going down easily, so white's not going to capture on c3. Instead, the rook goes to d1, rook over to d1. Who wants to suggest the next move for black?
Actually, never mind, that doesn't work.
Good.
Rook F, is that C8?
Yes, rook fc8 is the played move. So the one black piece that's not contributing to the attack comes over, introduces an idea of just stepping down here to c1, creating back rank problems. When the rook comes in, white's not going to be able to take it because that's going to lead to checkmate. Also, once this rook pushes forward with the other rook support, the queen's getting ready to come to this square, which is also likely to lead to checkmate. So these two rooks are coming in over here, and the threats are just tremendous. So after rook c8, let's again promote this line here. White tries pawn g3. So the king is desperately hoping to be able to get the bishop out of the way and flee in this direction. So pawn g3, which is as good a try as you can make here, makes total sense. And black continues here, rook c1, as we anticipated. And then the bishop runs over to h3, which is attacking the rook in this position. And of course, white's desperately hoping to castle, right? Maybe the opponent forgets that you can actually castle in the game. Sometimes when you get past move 20, you forget that that's still a legal move for your opponent. And then suddenly white sneakily castles and white gets away. But black's not going to allow an opportunity like that in this game. So after bishop h3, here, boom, we get rook takes d1. I think we're dealing at this point with multiple choices for how to continue. So king takes d1 would allow the queen to come over here, which is checkmate. So the queen pulls back to d1 here. All right, we get queen check, king over. And who wants to suggest a move for black in this position?
For a queen trade.
I have a question.
Yes.
I'm sorry. So instead of checking, couldn't you have just played the queen to b2 instead? Instead of playing queen c3, couldn't you have played queen c2? Because
I think then you've finally given me that sneaky opportunity I was talking about. I'm
oh,
still allowed to castle.
yes,
So your
okay.
idea of playing rook c1. Also, I can take this over here. So I missed that. But both castling here and taking the rook on c8 would be strong.
Oh, okay, right. Sorry, I didn't see either of those. Yeah.
All good. Okay, so I think we're in this position, looking for a move from black.
Queen d2.
Yes, queen d2. White is so close to getting out of here, getting the rook over, and just being a bishop up. But there's just not enough time. Chess is often a game of tempos. Here, the tempos are working out in black's favor. Of course, that's not luck. Black is a strong player. Black has calculated this far before pursuing these lines. So queen d2, this bishop is still attacking the rook over here, but this queen is attacking the white queen. And you're not able here to trade the queens because after the pawn captures, there's no way to stop this pawn's promotion. The king can step up, f2 or g2, and you cover the promotion here, but this is a classic promotion theme. The rook comes down, and there's no way to prevent this pawn from promoting. Black has a winning game. Okay. So here after queen d2, in this position, white finally pulls the king over, king g2, getting out of the middle of the board. White's a tempo away again, but it's black to move. What is black calculated as the refutation of king g2?
Oh, yeah, rook to c1.
Yes. Rook c1. Rook c1. So again, you cannot trade the queens. because after the pawn recaptures, we have the same position, and that pawn is going to promote, right? Every piece is working out, and again, this pawn that we've been celebrating is a hero in the game. But what happens if the queen captures that rook? Right?
Takes E2.
Queen takes E2, and then King G1, and who has the last move? Charlie?
Queen, I can't really see the coordinates, but it's the queen going behind the closest pawn to white's queen.
Right here?
Yeah.
Queen F2, and that's checkmate. And once again, as a chess coach, you love celebrating your heroic pieces. The pawn on E3 has been a hero all game. I think the pawn on E3 is the thematic pawn in the game. It's the one that sealed the king in, and it's now the one that supports the queen in delivering this checkmate. So this is the thematic into the game. In the actual game, after this move, rook C1 right here, this final sacrifice, white resigned right here, anticipating that that checkmate was unavoidable. So I really hope that you've enjoyed this game. It's one of my personal favorites right here. I'm suspecting, maybe I'm wrong, I'm suspecting it's the first time seeing this game for everyone in the room. Maybe there are one or two players who are well studied who might have seen it, or who watch my YouTube channel. But this is a great example of the kind of game I love. It is, to my mind, perfect. It's 24 moves, black plays consistently beautiful ideas. Everything fits together with some nice themes in terms of punishing white's underdevelopment with relentless pursuit of the king, trying to open lines, trying to maximize development, surrendering no time to white's petty threats to attack pawns and bishops, and the strong pawn on E3 sealing in that white king is just a powerhouse in variation after variation, right? I love a beautiful thematic game like this. Another thing that I love is just that the players are unknown, right? There are great games by famous players, like I've mentioned, beautiful games by Paul Morphy, by Kasparov, by Magnus Carlsen, games that are known to millions and millions of chess players. And that's fantastic. But it's also really, really cool to think that you can also play a game where you have a great combination and you share that move on Twitter or something, right? You got the brilliant move from Game Review and it goes viral. You get a bunch of likes because people are like, man, that's a cool theme. I've never seen that before. I've never seen that checkmate, right? You know, there are all kinds of amazing patterns and tactics and combinations possible. And there are brilliant games, brilliant combinations played by not famous players. And it's really cool that that can happen, right? You don't typically see in football or basketball or something, a truly amateur player like most of us are, having a highlight on the top of ESPN or something. But in chess, that's actually happening all the time. You have more attention to Carlsen and such, but you also have players who are unknown, who are in the books, who are going viral on Twitter, who are on top of Reddit, etc. And I think that's super cool, and it's like my favorite thing in the game. So that's all I have. Are there any questions about this game or anything else that we have before the final?
What did you think about the knight move by Ivanov or Ivanov, I guess?
Ivanchuk?
I'm sorry, Ivanchuk, sorry, yes. Yeah, that was just mind-boggling.
So, you know, we run on chess.com a Game of the Year awards, which is something I started maybe back in 2018 or something. We get input from all of our content team on nominations for Moves of the Year, for Game of the Year, for some other things, and then we put it up as a community vote. So it's like a People's Choice Award. It's not like the Oscars. We don't restrict the voting to critics. It's just whoever the community votes for. And I do love that. But bam, that's so right. I have to say that as much as I love the community making these selections, I think they got it wrong this year. That was definitely my move of the year.
Yeah.
I think it deserved it. I think Duda got move of the year for his checkmate against Ivanchik, which was spectacular. I love that. But in terms of just one move, that for me was the move of the year. So I tremendously enjoyed that. But there were a lot of good moves last year. Last year was a great year for chess, just in terms of brilliant games, brilliant moves, in my opinion. So, yeah.
It's amazing to me how long his longevity Chuck he's had. I think he played against Kasparov, right? I mean, it's the fact that he's still playing close.
I saw on Twitter today someone was celebrating. Actually, it was Jeremy Kane, who's a national master who does our lessons on chess.com. And I saw he was celebrating Emmanuel Lasker for his victory in New York 1924, which was the greatest super tournament of the time. Does anyone want to guess Emmanuel Lasker's age when he won New York 1924? Massive super tournament.
21?
Went the wrong direction.
He was in his 50s.
82. Wow, that's extreme. I would be impressive. Keep in mind, he's playing all of the best players in the world, and there are players who play amazing chess into their age. I don't think anyone's ever retained their strength quite to that level.
Was Capablanca still alive at the time?
Sorry?
Was that Capablanca in that tournament?
Capablanca was in that tournament, and Lasker invested in that tournament. He was 55, maybe 54, but in his 50s, and he won this tournament. And something like 10 years later in Moscow, I think it was, he finished second in the tournament with like Alyekin and everyone else. So there are a number of players who have been at their top, well into their 50s, but Lasker, I think, sets the standard for playing amazing chess and being the very best in the world, in his 50s and 60s. It's impressive.
How old is Anand right now?
Yeah, that's a good point.
Anand is in his 50s.
And he's still in the top 10, right? Or is he number 11?
I think he's top 10. He's very close, if not. He's been in the top 10 in the past few months. So.
Also Kasparov contemporary.
So Anand's longevity is incredible. We actually just put out a course looking over his career that's got 5-6 hours of content. You can all check out the first video, at least for free, and if you're a premium member on chess.com, you can watch the rest of it. And I was working on that material and selecting the games that we were interested in covering and surfacing that. He was incredible to work with. I think there's a ton of really good conversation there. He's reflecting on different moments in his career and how things have changed from starting out in the 1980s when computers were just starting to be like a thing that impacted how you would approach chess to now when it's all computer prep. I think it's particularly impressive with Anand that he's still in the top 10 into his 50s when you think about the fact that you've gone through that technical revolution, because he's managed to stay at the front, when like Deep Blue is first on the scene, right? And being really, really strong is a totally human thing. And now, 20 years later, to be in the top 10, you have to be really good at the computer prep side and understanding the engines and all of that. So he's managed to, just maintain an incredible level across multiple technological transformations. And there are other amazing players, I think, who have not managed to do that in the way that he has. So it's not just being an incredible player, it's also being a master of the tech of the game and all of that. And it's awesome.
I think Garry Kasparov had to beat Vasily Smyslov while he was in his 60s.
Yeah.
If he would have lost, he wouldn't have fought Karpov.
Yeah.
So I guess, you can play really good chess no matter how old you are.
Yep. I think Kasparov also had to play Petrosian when Petrosian was maybe in his 50s. I think he also had a candidate's match against Petrosian. But Smyslov was
Another recent player was Korchnoi.
Yeah. Cool. Korchnoi played into his 80s and was cranky the entire time.
Goals. All right, cool. Well, thank you, Sam. Thank you, Sam.